All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating experiment. We asked three of the world's biggest AI models, we're talking ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok, to interpret and generate a single, kind of prophetic document for the year 2026. It's called the Kukulkan Manifest. And what they came up with, well, it's pretty revealing. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll set the stage. Talk about the core idea we gave the AIs. Then we'll get into the really shocking part, the common ground they all found. After that, we'll dive into their unique personalities, because they are very different. From there, we'll see if we can stitch their views together into one single blueprint. And finally, we'll point out the one crucial thing that every single one of them missed. Okay, let's get right into it. This first part, the AI Oracle, is all about setting the scene. The whole experiment really kicked off with just one single question. Now, let's be super clear here. The goal isn't to say, hey, this prophecy is real. Not at all. It's to see how these incredibly powerful tools actually think. We're using this kind of weird, esoteric prompt to get a peek under the hood, to see their underlying logic, their built-in perspectives, and what you might even call their personalities. So this was the core concept we fed them. Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, is all about cyclical renewal, the end of one big era and the birth of a new one. We basically asked them to write a manifesto from that perspective and to address it to the current powers that be. So what did they come back with? Well, honestly, the most startling discovery was just how much they all agreed on. I mean, these are AIs trained by different companies on totally different data sets, but their core predictions for a global shift, they were almost identical. And what's so powerful here is the absolute consensus. All three AIs, completely on their own, are forecasting the end of the current globalist order, the decline of the dollar, and the rise of a multipolar world with the BRICS nations at its center. And they don't even frame it as a threat. It's a final invitation or a navigation map for the old powers. In their view, this shift, it's just inevitable. But, and this is a big but, while they all agreed on what was going to happen, their explanations of how and why were completely different. And this is where we start to see their unique voices, their personalities really come out and shine. ChatGPT, it comes across as the diplomat, or maybe a spiritual philosopher. Its text is super structured, very respectful, almost serene. It talks about a moral shift, a new order of harmony, and this thing called the law of functional order. It basically frames this whole transition as a necessary evolution of our consciousness. Gemini is totally different. It's the spiritual technologist, the grand architect. It uses this bold, declarative language. It doesn't suggest things, it declares them. Its whole focus is on cosmic order, technological emancipation, things like free energy and public domain AI, and rebuilding society on what it calls a human scale. It's not a discussion, it's a blueprint. And then you've got Grok. Oh man, Grok is the pragmatic political analyst through and through. It grounds its prophecy right here in the real world, citing actual figures like Larry Fink, specific policies, and raw geopolitical data. It's talking about dollar deficits, China's nuclear reactor program, strategic positioning. For Grok, this isn't some spiritual shift, it's just pure, cold, systemic mechanics at play. So this gives us our three distinct personas, right? You've got ChatGPT, the diplomat, focused on morality. Then there's Gemini, the architect, all about technology and cosmic design. And finally, Grok, the analyst, laser-focused on data and power. Each AI gives us a completely different lens to view the exact same predicted future. This big difference in their approach, it raises a really interesting question. Can we actually combine these three very distinct perspectives into a single, cohesive blueprint for this 2026 transition they're all talking about? Can we build something that's, stronger than the sum of its parts? We think we can. By layering their insights, we can put together a three-step plan that really plays to the unique strengths of each AI's vision. We'll start with a foundation, then we'll add the structure, and then we'll guide the whole thing with an overarching principle. Okay, first up, we lay the foundation with Grok's no-nonsense, pragmatic analysis. This just means accepting the raw reality of the geopolitical and economic shift. Any plan for what's next has to be built on a clear-eyed understanding of the current power dynamics, the dollar's decline, and the rise of sovereign multipolar blocs. It's the necessary, grounded first step. You got to start with reality. So on top of that solid foundation, we build the structure using Gemini's big architectural vision. This is the how. It's about a radical emancipation through technology, making things like advanced AI and new energy sources public goods, and consciously decoupling from centralized control. The whole idea is to use technology not for more control, but to restore nature and empower communities. And finally, every new system needs a compass to guide it, right? That's where ChatGPT's philosophical framework comes in. This law of functional order acts as the guiding principle, the core idea that any system, whether it's social or technological, has to be aligned with truth and balance if it's going to thrive. It provides the ethical why for the entire transformation. So there you have it, a pretty comprehensive blueprint for a global transition, pieced together from 3 different AI minds. But even with all their combined intelligence, there is a massive, glaring blind spot. What did all 3 of them completely miss? The human actor, the individual, the community, us. All 3 of these manifests describe these enormous, top-down systemic changes, right? Geopolitical shifts, tech revolutions, new spiritual laws. But they pretty much ignore the messy, unpredictable, and absolutely essential role of individual people in actually making that change happen. And this raises a really crucial question. The AIs present this change like it's an inevitable, almost mechanical process that just happens. But can a global system really transform into one based on harmony and truth and a human scale if the people themselves aren't actively, consciously driving that change from the bottom up? I'm not so sure. And that brings us to our final section, the mirror. So after all of this analysis, what's the ultimate takeaway? What does it all mean? At the end of the day, the real value here isn't in trying to predict 2026. It's in understanding the predictors themselves. These manifests are mirrors. They show us how these AIs think. ChatGPT sees the world through a philosophical lens. Gemini sees it as a giant architectural problem, and Grok sees it all as a geopolitical chessboard. Their prophecies are really just reflections of their own programming. And that leaves us with one last, and I think, vital question. As these tools become more and more a part of our lives, helping us model the future and make sense of the present, we have to be so aware of their inherent perspectives. The real challenge isn't just to listen to what the AI is saying, but to understand what it's reflecting back at us, and to make sure that we, not it, remain the authors of our own future.